On the 15th of February, 2026, the Reverend Dr. Mark Y.A. Davies spoke at Red River Unitarian Universalist Church on the topic, The History of Civil Disobedience. Augustine and Aquinas were both known for claiming that an unjust law is no law at all. We know from the experience of humanity that legality and morality are not synonymous. Many practices have been deemed legal by societies that are clearly immoral. This discourse explores how civil disobedience to unjust laws has been an effective catalyst for social change throughout human history. Welcome from Red River Unitarian Universalist. Thank you for joining us. The religion we practice in this church is centered in the here and now, rather than the hereafter. It is more of a thinking kind of religion than a believing kind. It is governed more by reason than by tradition, more concerned with the present than the past. It is concerned with getting the most out of life, with living wisely and well. A major aim for us is continually expanding our understanding of life and ourselves. This church is a community of people who share in the free and open search for a level of understanding that will enable us to be more fully and effectively alive. The church does not tell us what we must believe. It stimulates us to think. It supports us in our search. You are welcome to join us. Our centering value is love, with transformation, generosity, equity, interdependence, justice, and pluralism.
With thankful hearts, we have come together this morning to celebrate this day, to bask in the warmth of this community, to share with friends the tides of our lives, to entertain perennially our hopes for a better future. We join together this morning, as always, to resist injustice and inequality wherever they may be found. Our hearts are touched by the human need we feel around us, whether far away or within reach of our hand. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived, in questioning and in conversation, in compassion and in service, in gratitude and in joy, in companionship and in love. It is good to be together with you this morning. And as always, this morning, we have the opportunity to light our candles of community, which are on the table over there. You can light a candle for joy, a concern, to remember someone who's special to you, or simply to bring more light into our space.
In all our living, may we be gentle. So what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle. So what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle. So what is dear to us may also live. Do you love this earth? Oh, surely you love this earth. If you love this earth, then surely you will understand our cry. Do you love this earth? Oh, surely you love this earth. If you love this earth, then surely you will understand our cry. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. Have you been wounded? Oh, surely you've been wounded. If you've been wounded, then surely you will understand our cry. Have you been wounded? Oh, surely you've been wounded. If you've been wounded, then surely you will understand our cry. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. Oh, be gentle, oh, be gentle, oh, be gentle, oh, be gentle. Do you love children? Oh, surely you love children. If you love children, then surely you will understand our cry. Do you love children? Oh, surely you love children. If you love children, then surely you will understand our cry. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. In all our living, may we be gentle, so what is dear to us may also live. All right.
Let's stand together in body or spirit for our chalice lighting and the spoken affirmation and the lighting of the peace candle. Flame of our faith, call us into the community of love and justice this morning and every morning. Let us join together in the spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and freedom, and to help one another. We light this peace candle to remind us of all the places in this world where there is no peace. Join me in the words now on the screen. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Are you seated?
The worship team is going to be sharing UU snippets every Sunday. So the people here may learn about what it means to be UU and about our church. So today my kickoff is, I'm going to share with you the lowdown on pledging. Basically, a pledge is your way of saying, I'm in. It's a voluntary annual pinky swear to support our church financially. It's not a scary binding contract. It's just a heads up so that we know how to plan for the year ahead. If circumstances change, so can your pledge. Your generosity fuels the stuff that matters. Our spiritual growth and Sunday services. our local social justice projects. Paying experts who help us grow, and of course, keeping our building from falling down on top of us. Pledging isn't just about dollars. We see pledging as a spiritual practice. It's a way to put your money where your heart is and help our community actually do the things we say we value. If you don't have a current pledge, don't worry. You will soon be asked. Red River UU holds its annual campaign in the spring. We usually kick things off in March and wrap it up by mid-April. So start thinking about what this community means to you, and let's make sure we can keep doing the cool stuff we do.
I saw some of you look up when she talked about the building falling down on top of us. It's good. It's good. Our opening thought this morning comes from Mohandas Gandhi, from Nonviolence and Peace and War, from 1942 to 1949. Gandhi wrote, "An unjust law is itself a species of violence. Arrest for its breach is more so. Now the law of nonviolence says that violence should be resisted not by counter-violence, but by nonviolence. This I do by breaking the law and by peacefully submitting to arrest and imprisonment."
In many a time, in many a land, with many a gun, in many a hand, they came by the night, they came by the day, came with their guns to take us away, with a knock on the door, knock on the door, here they come to take one more, with a knock on the door, knock on the door, here they come to take one more, one more. Back in the days of the Roman Empire, they died by the cross and they died by the fire. In the stone Colosseum, the crowd gave a roar, and it all began with a knock on the door, just a knock on the door, knock on the door. Here they come to take one more, with a knock on the door, knock on the door. Here they come to take one more, one more. The years went by and we reached modern times. The Nazis came with their Nazi war crimes. In the din of silence, where freedom had drowned, 11 million people heard the same sound of a knock on the door. Knock on the door, here they come to take one more, with a knock on the door, knock on the door, here they come to take one more, one more. agents of ICE broadcast their raids. They're trying to make the people afraid of a knock on the door. Knock on the door. Here they come to take one more. With a knock on the door. A knock on the door. Here they come to take one more. One more. Resist the goons of the strange orange clown from South Minneapolis to here in our town. Open your eyes, see what they do when they knock for your neighbor. They're knocking for you with a knock on the door. Knock on the door. Here they come to take one more with a knock on the door. Knock on the door. Here they come to take one more. One more.
Our next reading comes from Henry David Thoreau. You can't have a service with a theme of civil disobedience and a Unitarian Universalist congregation without reading from Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience and Other Essays. Thoreau wrote, "If the injustice is part of the necessary friction of the machine of government, let it go. Let it go. Penchance it will wear smooth. Certainly the machine will wear out. If the injustice has a spring, or a pulley, or a rope, or a crank exclusively for itself, then perhaps you may consider whether the remedy will not be worse than the evil. But if it is of such a nature that it requires you to be the agent of injustice to another, then I say, break the law. Let your life be a counter-friction to stop the machine. What I have to do is to see, at any rate, that I do not lend myself to the wrong which I condemn." Our meditation this morning will be to the words of Jules Taylor, "Love Looks Different." Let's take a moment to center ourselves, sit comfortably, perhaps both legs on the ground, both feet on the ground. Close your eyes if you wish. Take some deep breaths with me, breathing in and out, in and out. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It is not proud. Love bears all things. We know these words, use these words when we refer to one person loving another. Love looks different when we relate to systems. Love looks different in the face of injustice. It is then that love is resistant. Love is defiant. It is not backing down. It is staying in the streets. Love is holding each other and ourselves accountable. Love is challenging because none of us is free until all of us are free. Love is protest. Protest is love. Love bears all things. Our next reading comes from Howard Zinn, who taught at Boston University, one of my schools. Comes from You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, a Personal History of Our Times. Zinn wrote, "Civil disobedience, as I put it to the audience, was not the problem, despite the warnings of some that it threatened social stability, that it led to anarchy. The greatest danger, I argued, was civil obedience, the submission of individual conscience to governmental authority. Such obedience led to the horrors we saw in totalitarian states, and in liberal states, it led to the public's acceptance of war whenever the so-called democratic government decided on it. In such a world, the rule of law maintains things as they are. Therefore, to begin the process of change, to stop a war, to establish justice, it may be necessary to break the law to commit acts of civil disobedience.
Remember, when I come up here, I expect you to sing.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
You may have heard of Augustine, a little bit, from the 4th century, a Christian theologian from North Africa, by the way. A lot of people get confused and think that Augustine was from Europe, but he was from North Africa. One of the most influential theologians in the first millennium of Christianity. And then also Thomas Aquinas, maybe one of the most influential theologians within Western Christianity, at least in the second millennium. Aquinas lived in the 13th century. So Augustine in the 4th century and Aquinas in the 13th century were both known for claiming something that, if you read all of their theology, you might be surprised they claimed this. And that is this: an unjust law is no law at all. An unjust law is no law at all. They wrote it in Latin. I'm not going to say it in Latin, but they wrote it first in Latin. And I do have that on one of my social media pages. But they recognized, and they recognized it from their faith tradition, but they also recognized it from the long philosophical tradition that they were a part of, that they recognized that legality and morality are not synonymous. And we know that as well from our experience of humanity, that legality and morality are not synonymous. Many practices that have been deemed legal by societies are absolutely immoral. So today, in this discourse, I'm going to explore how civil disobedience to unjust laws has been both a necessary and oftentimes effective catalyst to bring about social change throughout human history, and is both necessary for today as well. In our own context of the United States, we see many examples of civil disobedience in our past and in our present. In the context of the civil rights movement here in the United States, the concept of an unjust law being no law at all was borrowed by Martin Luther King Jr. from Augustine and Aquinas. And King went on to show that he was very clear in his understanding that legality does not equal morality. And he was building on the thought and work of persons like Henry David Thoreau. King read Civil Disobedience by Henry David Thoreau, and he also was building on the work and thought and life of Mohandas Gandhi as well. King's mentor, Howard Thurman, had visited India and was very much influenced by the nonviolent civil disobedience movement there, and passed it on to his mentee, Martin Luther King Jr. The distinction between legality and morality has been highlighted in bold relief recently here in the United States. One example can be seen in the numerous attempts that there have been made to create and enforce unjust laws by what can only be described as a corrupt, fascist United States federal government. The mantra of might makes right is being used in an attempt to overcome not only our Constitution, but the very concept of true justice itself. Our government wants us to believe that if they say something is the law, then we simply must obey, no matter how immoral and actually unlawful their dictates may be. The recent warnings and the discussions by numerous former members of the military who are serving in Congress about the duty to disobey unlawful orders became necessary because our fascist federal government has been coercing persons currently serving in the military to follow orders that are in conflict with the Constitution and in conflict with international law. The fascist federal government would have us and our military believe that their authoritarian decree equals the law. But it is critical to remember that those serving in the military took an oath to the Constitution, not to a fascist president. The warnings by sitting members of Congress not to obey unlawful orders is an action in the spirit of civil disobedience. And it's a recognition that there is a higher law. There is a higher law than dictatorial decree. This is why fascists in our federal government are attempting to punish those who are calling out this warning not to obey unlawful orders, because they wrongly believe, the fascists in our government wrongly believe, that their will should be the law. But we are rightly reminded that an unjust order should not be seen as a lawful order and thus should rightly be disobeyed. Unitarian Universalism embraces the importance of the contributions of nonviolent civil disobedience in bringing about social change. The term civil disobedience was in fact invented by the Unitarian and American writer Henry David Thoreau. Doesn't mean it didn't exist before Henry David Thoreau, but he coined the term civil disobedience. And he wrote about it in 1846 when he himself decided to refuse to pay a tax. And so he spent the night in jail because he refused to pay a tax. He refused to pay taxes because he was against money being used for slavery, and he was against money being used for the injustices that were being committed in the Mexican-American War. And then 3 years later, he wrote about it in terms of publishing it in an essay titled Civil Disobedience that was originally titled Resistance to Civil Government. This gave a name to nonviolent resistance to unjust laws. It gave a name to nonviolent resistance to government policies that are unjust. Thoreau's Civil Disobedience was a protest against injustice and a protest for love. Other examples of civil disobedience in our history include Harriet Tubman and her work with the Underground Railroad that helped so many escape slavery, even though slavery was, quote, the law of the land. Harriet Tubman would be on our $20 bill today rather than Andrew Jackson if it were not for this current fascist government. We also see the effectiveness of civil disobedience in the life and the work of Mohandas Gandhi in both South Africa and in India. You may have heard about the Great Salt March, where thousands of Indians marched to the sea to make their own salt, to get their own salt, in disobedience to the laws that salt should only come from the British colonial power. You also saw in Gandhi the homespun movement, the spinning of thread at home, as another example of resisting these laws that were meant to keep India dependent on the British colonial government for both salt and clothing. Rosa Parks practiced civil disobedience by not giving up her bus seat, and that action we know led to the Montgomery bus boycott and numerous other actions of civil disobedience in the civil rights movement, including sit-ins at counters, such as the sit-in from Clara Luper and her students in 1958 in Oklahoma City, where we now have a permanent statue that marks that resistance, marks that civil disobedience that Clara Luper and her students made in Oklahoma City. And just a week after that statue was memorialized, dedicated in Oklahoma City, it was vandalized as well, and fortunately has been repaired since then. In apartheid, or apartheid as I'm told it's pronounced by my South African friends, we saw Mandela, we saw Tutu, we saw many others practice civil disobedience against the unjust apartheid laws of South Africa, and eventually winning versus those injustices. And during the Vietnam War, the burning of draft cards was a form of civil disobedience against the injustices of that war. Muhammad Ali expressed a form of civil disobedience by not answering to the draft at that time as well. The climate strikes, led by Greta Thunberg and others, can be seen as a form of civil disobedience. And of course, the resistance to ICE that we see today, that is so necessary, that we see in Minneapolis, that we see in our own streets and elsewhere, is a form of civil disobedience that we are witnessing in this very moment. It's imperative to see that when unjust laws are enforced, that is not law enforcement. Anyone who says that that is law enforcement is lying. That's not law enforcement, that's injustice enforcement, and it need not be obeyed. In fact, it is a moral duty to disobey it. It is a moral duty to resist it. It's also imperative to see, I think, that those who clamor for law and order the loudest are often those who are the most lawless and create the most disorder in our society. They seek to rule from an autocratic authority based in a patriarchal white supremacy. And the only proper response to their unjust attempts to control us is that of civil disobedience. Because an unjust law is no law at all. At this time, we have our opportunity for giving. You can bring your gifts to the table, and you can also give online.
Thank you.
They say he's bulletproof, wrapped in flags and fear. No gavel loud enough, no guardrails left to steer. Courts looked the other way, Congress fell in line. The law got sold for parts, truth pawned for airtime. But every lie he shouts into a hard mind glare, lights 1,000 sparks in the open air. We will not bow, we will not break, we will not trade our souls for hate. Not with fists, not with fear, not with gasoline. We fight with ballots, voices, and stubborn dreams. We will win, yeah, that much is true. And when it's done, we will rebuild too. Like it's immune to shame. When violence stops whispering and starts yelling its name, something wakes up in the quiet crowd. A deeper courage, steady and loud. The more they show us who they are inside, the more the decent world decides to rise. We will not bow, we will not break, we will not let despair decide our fate. Not with guns, not with threats, not with blind obedience, but law and love and fierce resistance. We will win, not just survive. We'll build a future worthy of our lives. For our kids and their kids, we draw the line. No kings, no thrones, no stolen time. No strongman myths, no billionaire gods. No nation built on prison yards. Let allies link arms across the sea. Let streets fill up peacefully. This is how a mad reign ends. Not with silence, but with friends. We will not bow, we will not break, we will not let the darkness take our faith in rules, in rights, in truth, in justice, old and justice new. arms and bravado on display, but a moral force that lights the way. My friend, stand tall, the choice is clear. We're still standing strong, and the future's near.
Let's stand in body or spirit for our closing. And it may be the case that our chalices are in extenuating circumstances, but we'll actually be extinguishing the chalices, not extenuating our chalices this morning. Hear these closing words, this parting thought from Erica Hewitt, to be a Unitarian Universalist. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. We extinguish these flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.